There is no conflict more impactful in the course of human history than the one fought between a rising power and an established great power, and in 264 BC, the Western Mediterranean world found itself on the edge of such a conflict. For centuries, the preeminence of Carthage was unchallenged in this region, until an insignificant city-state went on a century-long rampage through the Apennine Peninsula, creating a power block right in the center of the Mediterranean. The existence of a unified Italy under Rome is a threat to Carthaginian interests, and likewise, the existence of a powerful sea empire on Rome's southern and western flank is unacceptable to Rome. In this video, we will look at how the geographies of both Rome and Carthage affected how they interacted with the world, the geopolitical forces that led them into conflict, and the first part of the war between them. To better understand this upcoming conflict, it is important to understand the combatants involved. At this time, Rome and Carthage are at their core city-states, albeit very large and powerful ones. Their empires are essentially a confederation of other city-states and tribes that are subject to them by treaty. This means that the geography of their city heavily influenced how they interacted with the world. Starting with the city of Carthage. The city of Carthage sits on an easily defended peninsula, making most land attacks impossible. This means that Carthage doesn't have to expend its resources on large armies and instead can focus on developing a navy that can be used to take over strategically located positions far away from the Carthaginian homeland. And this is exactly what Carthage did, to the point where they now control most resource centers in the Western Mediterranean and the trade links between them. This means all of Carthage's power and wealth is due to their navy, and for this reason it is exclusively manned by Carthaginian citizens, while the less important land armies are manned by foreign mercenaries. This makes sense, since why would you send your own citizens to fight and die for control of lands hundreds of miles away from your home city, when you could just ferry a mercenary army over there, have them bleed for it, force the natives to pay tribute to support your navy, essentially making them pay for their own bondage, place a garrison at a strategically located position, then pay the mercenaries and send them home. This strategy has allowed Carthage to maintain control of the Western Mediterranean for the last 300 years. Moving on to Rome. The city of Rome was on a flat plain right in the middle of Italy and has no natural barriers. This geography means that to defend themselves, Rome almost has to devote all of its resources to developing an army and the infrastructure around it. This lack of natural barriers also means the only way for Rome to defend their territory is to expand it. The strategy the Romans implemented to accomplish this task was, after taking over territory, they would place several fortified colonies stocked with armed Roman citizens in the best lands of that area. A side effect of this strategy is that after a couple generations, the population these colonies ballooned and eventually gave Rome a manpower pool so massive that they were able to increase the pace of conquest until they subjected the entire Apennine Peninsula. With Italy conquered, Rome has greatly increased their security of their heartland, and now is secure enough to operate like Carthage and expand their power to strategically located positions across the Mediterranean. For the first time in history, having a navy could be something more than an expensive luxury for the Romans. And in 265 BCE, the geopolitical need for a navy would have been very easy to see when the Roman leadership looked over a map. Another thing easy to see is a threat that Carthage posed to Rome. Carthaginian territory formed a semicircle around Italy. To the west, Rome's heartland is exposed from raids from Sardinia and Corsica, while to the south, Carthage has extended its control over much of Italy. Their territory coming as close within 2 miles of Roman territory, with their control of the city of Messana, making the city a perfect springboard for an invasion of southern Italy. Knowing this fact, it must have seemed like a gift from the gods when a messenger arrived from Messana asking for Rome's aid against their Carthaginian occupiers. For years, the group known as the Mamertines had controlled the city of Messana, using it as a base to raid Syracusan lands. But after losing a battle against Syracuse, the Mamertines submitted themselves to Carthage to avoid Syracusan reprisals. However, the Mamertines seemed to be a fickle people, and unhappy with their current masters, instead decided to submit to Rome and drove off the Carthaginian soldiers garrisoning their city. The Mamertines' treachery angered the Carthaginians so much they crucified their commander who'd failed them and marched an army along the southern coast of Sicily, stopping at Syracuse to form an alliance to punish the Mamertines and take Messana. With this goal in mind, 12,000 Carthaginian mercenaries and Syracusan soldiers march north, while 9,000 Roman soldiers make their way south to Messana. The city of Messana sits on a narrow strip of land between the Palatine Mountains and the Mediterranean. This geography creates 2 choke points to the north and to the south of the city. To take advantage of this, the Carthaginians positioned their army to the north, the Syracusans to the south, while the Carthaginian navy patrolled the coast in an attempt to starve out Messana. The only hope the city has is if the freshly arrived Roman army on the opposite side of the strait is able to slip past the Carthaginian blockade. The Carthaginian commander feels confident enough in his ability to stop this from happening. He tells the Roman consul that he can prevent him from washing his hands in the sea sea if he wanted. The Romans, undeterred by Carthaginian bravado, make a risky night crossing and occupy Messana. The next day, the Romans attempt to negotiate with the besieging forces, but after receiving unacceptable terms, they decide to show their new enemies the reason why all of Italy is now subject to them, and march out of the city and prepare for battle. Taking advantage of their enemies being separated, the Romans first attack the Syracusans, pushing them back, then wheeling around and defeating the Carthaginians. 6,000 dead Carthaginian mercenaries and Syracusan hoplites lie on the field as Romans settled into their new city, a prize that only cost them 1,500 men. With this victory, Rome now has a beachhead in Sicily, but are still in a very difficult position. All the supplies leaving Italy for Sicily has to avoid being captured by the large and capable Carthaginian navy, only to land in the most mountainous corner of an island renowned for its ruggedness. For now, Rome supplying its armies in Sicily is going to be a slow and painful process at best, and an impossible task at worst. But the Romans, being the Romans, decide to land 40,000 soldiers in Sicily the very next year and march them to the gates of Syracuse. The ruler of Syracuse, seeing firsthand the power of the Romans, offers to become a Roman ally and help supply them in their endeavors in Sicily. The Romans, having experienced the difficulties of a Sicilian campaign and the impressive nature of the defenses of the island city, accept the terms and now turn their full attention to the Carthaginians. And the Carthaginians are preparing for this attention, sending out their recruiters to spread some of their immense wealth to buy a mercenary army of 40,000 men. While this army is being assembled, they will send a small force to set up operations in the city of Agrimentum, which is strategically located along the southern coast of Sicily. Agrimentum is a transportation hub sitting on the coastal road and the roads to the interior cities. The sides who controls the city will have access to almost the entire island. The Romans, also seeing the importance of this city, send an army of 50,000 men to besiege it, but taking Agrimentum will not be easy. The city sits on a ridge with cliffs running along its northern, western, and eastern edges, and a river wrapping around its south. The only route for the Romans to attack is a narrow strip of land composed of a steep hill to the west of the city. The only advantage the Carthaginians are giving up in defending this location is it is inland, and their navy will not be able to resupply them. Upon arriving outside the city walls, the Romans take advantage of this weakness and siege the settlement. The problem for the Romans is they are also struggling to avoid starvation themselves. A Roman army of this size requires 58 tons of grain a day to feed, and the Roman logistics are stretched to their very limits. The only reason they are able to maintain this siege is the supplies from their Syracuse and allies. To alleviate the hunger of their men, the Roman leadership allows most of their army to leave the siege and harvest the ripe fields in the countryside. The Carthaginians, seeing this, launch a surprise attack on the Roman camp. The Roman camp guard take heavy losses and are nearly overwhelmed, but manage to push the Carthaginians back into Agrimentum. Not wanting to underestimate their foes again, the Roman generals decide to keep their forces close to the city and dig ditches and build forts along the city to prevent food from coming in and to protect their own forces. For 5 months, the Romans continue the siege. Agrimentum is now deep in the pangs of hunger, but the Romans are suffering too, with a trickle of supplies from Syracuse just barely keeping starvation at bay. But that trickle was suddenly stopped by the arrival of a 40,000 strong Carthaginian relief army. The Carthaginian general, seeing the situation, decides to besiege the besiegers and fortifies a camp on a hill, using his cavalry and skirmishers to wear down the Romans while avoiding a pitched battle. For the next 2 months, the Romans attempt to starve out Agrimentum, while the Carthaginian army attempts to starve out the Romans. This stalemate is eventually broken by the Carthaginians, who are informed by smoke signal that the defenders of Agrimentum can't hold out any longer. Lining up for battle on the level ground, the Carthaginians offer battle. The starving Romans accept the challenge, and in a bloody afternoon, the Roman army defeats the Carthaginian army. The city defenders, seeing that they will never be relieved, decide to slip away in the night, taking advantage of the Roman disorder after battle. As the dust settles, the Roman army has lost 15 to 20,000 men to starvation or violence, while the Carthaginians have lost only 7,000. But despite these lopsided losses, in the end Rome has taken their strategically important city of Agrimentum, greatly increasing their ability to exert influence into central Sicily. This may be a major setback to Carthage, but they are far from backing down from this fight. Sicily is just too rich and too important for their security to give up on, and likewise, the Romans will not tolerate a pure power in Sicily, rightly seeing as a threat to their security. Next time, join me as Rome and Carthage take their battle to the seas. Thank you.